I want to welcome all of you here today, and if you'll please stand, Commissioner Morgan will lead us in a prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Heavenly Lord, we always come to you with thanks for all that you have given us. We admit that we are not worthy of the blessings that you give to us. We would ask today that you would be with all those who are afflicted with the COVID virus, the continued recovery of the President of our United States as we move forward into this election season. Let us all remember Christ came with love. All of this we ask in the name of your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank all of you for being here this morning, and at this time, we'll call the meeting of the Cabell County Commission to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the regular commission agenda, but we do have an emergency item we'd like to add to the agenda, which involves a resolution that will allow us to apply for a grant from the West Virginia Courthouse Facilities Improvement Fund. And the deadline for that is before our next meeting, so it does make it an emergency that we need to get that approved. So we'll add that at the end of the agenda. 291.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made to add the emergency item to the agenda. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. The next item would be the approval of the regular commission agenda. That would include the emergency item.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion's been made. It's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item would be minutes of the regular commission meeting, August 27th, 2020.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made to approve. It's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item would be approval of erroneous assessments, land consolidation, split tickets, probate documentation, county clerk's probate office.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made. It's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Approval of purchase orders number 21-99955 through 21-100-129 pay jackets. Monthly payments to Fifth Third for fuel card purchases.
I think you ought to play the lottery today with 99995.
So moved.
It might
Second.
work. Motion's been made. It's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. This is the section of our program where we have citizens registered to speak.
There's
And
one. Okay. She's getting one now.
okay, we have with us today Mike Warner, who is our West Virginia Secretary of State, and at this time he'd like to speak with us. You want to come on up, or? Welcome. It's nice to have you.
Is it okay to remove my mask while I
It
sit?
sure is.
Okay, good. Well, just glad to be with everybody this morning. I just wanted to avail myself of any questions anybody might have about the election process. I'm actually thinking that West Virginia is in an excellent position right now for this election. We had perhaps the best primary in the nation, almost flawless, and we've actually made improvements to make this next election even better. By way of example, we've got the first electronic portal where people can request an absentee ballot using an electronic device with a computer. That allows the transmission to go into the county clerk's office immediately, and the next day, the label is being put on that ballot for it to be sent out, so that reduces the time that it took to transmit. It also reduces human error. We had some issues from county clerks. They actually asked me after the primary not to send out the applications that we all received during the primary. The reason we sent those out was that the governor had moved the primary 28 days, and those applications were a way to inform citizens that the election had been moved and that they can vote via absentee ballot. We went from 7,000 absentee ballots in a typical election around the state to 224,000 people voted absentee ballot. And yet our clerks were able to pull this off, and they did it in a fabulous fashion. I was recognized in front of the U.S. Senate because of what West Virginia set the example for the nation, and they wanted us to share our best practices with the rest of the nation. And then, like I said, we approved that with this new system. Nothing was taken away. This electronic option was simply added to what we already had in place. So if citizens still want to vote absentee, they still can download the ballot themselves or the application. They can call the county clerk. They can bring it, come in and get it in person. So we simply added to what we already had in place. And that's why we're going to have a better general election than we did the primary. All the PPE will be in place, just like we had 0 cases, no cases of COVID-19 during the primary due to in-person voting. So I still encourage people to vote in person if they can. That's the surest way to vote. And let me just give you a quick example, because I get asked this quite a bit. The post office, I love the post office. They work hard. They do a great job. But when it comes to ballots, using the post office's own figures, 96% of the time they deliver on time. Okay, and that sounds great. That's an A in those people's books. But when it comes to elections, that means that there's 4% of the people who are not receiving their application on time, their ballot on time, and so forth. So if we had that paper process and people were sending in those applications, 4% wouldn't reach the county clerk's office in time. When the county clerk sends the ballots out, 4% wouldn't be received by the people on time. When they send those ballots back in, 4% wouldn't be received in time. That's why we're leveraging technology to make the election process more secure, remove the human element out of it. If a human puts on a application a 4 and it looks like a 9, then that ballot is going to the wrong address. And so that's why the clerks came to me after the primary and said, please, let's streamline this process. That's why we're not sending the applications out, but making it easy for people to apply for an absentee ballot. So I appreciate this opportunity just to address some of these things, because we are getting a lot of questions. We're right in the middle of this, folks. 110,000 people have already requested absentee ballots for this election. 58,000 people have already returned returned their ballots. So this election is underway. I do want to emphasize again, if you can vote in person, please do so. We saw right here in this area where we had a situation and the delegate has resigned from the House of Delegates. And so people who have already voted are wondering, does that count and what's going to happen? That's why I encourage people, there's a reason for an election day. If you vote on election day, you have all that information, okay? Somebody who votes early, now that is up in the air. Or will my ballot arrive on time, all that sort of thing. So let me review a couple dates, and then I'll give you a chance to ask me a question you might have. Key dates, like I said, the election's already underway. You can request your absentee ballot. The election's underway. Next deadline is October 21st is when early voting starts. It goes from October 21st to October 31st. The October 28th is the last day to request an absentee ballot, and it has to be in the county clerk's hands by the 28th. It's not postmarked by it. It has to be in her hands by the 28th for you to get the absentee ballot. That's to give them time to register in the poll books who's requested an absentee ballot, who hasn't, that sort of thing. The voting, you can vote all the way up until November 3rd, but it has to be postmarked by election day, November 3rd, for that vote to count. We had 10,000 provisional ballots during the primary due to people not signing, the ballots arriving late, that sort of thing. 10,000, so you can imagine what that does to election night reporting. We may all think that we have results on election night, then those 10,000 ballots get decided by the county commissions or the canvassers and so forth afterwards. So that's why I encourage people to vote in person. We have better results at that point. And with that, I'll stop talking, but you'll have a chance to ask me any questions you might have.
Anybody have any
I have
questions?
a question. I've been contacted by people concerned that if they request a ballot, an absentee ballot, and they receive it, but they decide and change their mind to go to the voting booth, I've tried to explain the process, and the ones I do explain it, they seem to be at ease a little bit more. But would you want to explain to the public what happens so that people know that that absentee ballot is not counted twice?
Right. The absentee process is there for somebody who has a legitimate concern, COVID-19 concern, or some other medical condition, goes into the hospital just a week before the election. That's what absentee ballots were set up for. And our process, folks, I want to brag on the West Virginia system, the code, the legislature. We have it right here. You have to request an absentee ballot. It's required by code. You have to request it. We're just not going to send ballots out. That's the vote by mail system. So if you have that concern, everybody in the state still is eligible to vote absentee due to COVID-19. But we're not a no excuse state, we're not a vote by mail state, okay? You have to request that ballot, that's why I mentioned here, and you have to do it in your own handwriting, so you can sign, using your finger, that's your own handwriting, that satisfies state law. So if you go through that process, I'm sure the clerks will tell you, if you're going to request an absentee ballot, we want you to vote that absentee ballot. That means vote it and put it back in the mail and do it now. Do it now, don't wait till up close to the election, because that's when that 4% thing starts coming in, and things get delayed and so forth, and people get frustrated that, whether the ballots are not going to count or not. That's what the president was addressing in North Carolina, people who were concerned that they voted in absentee, but it actually reached the county clerk's office. So to answer your question, Commissioner, if you get an absentee ballot, that you do change your mind and you want to vote in person, take that ballot with you to the precinct where you want to vote in person, whether it's during early voting or on election day, and the election officials will spoil that ballot. Then they will give you a ballot. And if you've brought in that absentee ballot with you, the ballot they give you will be a good, live ballot. It will be counted on election day. That's the way to do it. If you show up and you decide to vote in person, but you'd asked me for an absentee ballot, it's going to show up in the poll book that you requested an absentee ballot, but you don't have it with you. They're not going to give you a good live ballot. They're going to give you a provisional ballot. Then that doesn't get opened on election night. That gets opened on the Monday after the Tuesday election, so it's 6 days later. And then that's when you all, the commissioners, get to decide whether those ballots count or not. Those are the provisional ballots. You're on check to see whether they actually voted an absentee ballot as well. So there's a check and balance system in this that will catch people who vote twice. And not everybody that votes twice is trying to actually cheat. Sometimes they forget. They voted now early, and 3 weeks from now they forgot that, a situation like that. But hopefully we don't have too many of those. But that's the system. Back to supporting what the clerks have asked me to do repeatedly. If you have an absentee ballot, they would ask you to go ahead and vote it, then we don't get that situation. Don't go to vote in person. That's the request. But can you? Yes, you can. Take the ballot with you, and you will get a good ballot, and it will spoil out on the spot. I hope that addresses that question. Thank you. Yes, please. Sure.
I know in the primary, we got reimbursed for the extra postage we were having to spend
Yes.
for all this out of the Holiday Cares money.
Yes.
Well, is that still going to be an option in the general?
It sure is.
Okay.
And we sure ask you to do that and do it early.
Mhm.
Congress gave us that money to spend, and so we hired an extra person to do that, just like the county courts are asking, or clerks are hiring additional people. We hired additional people to handle these requests, so we can get you that reimbursement quickly.
Okay.
And most of the counties have. I still have about 5 counties out. If you haven't requested money that they are legally
Right.
entitled to.
Right.
But Congress gave us that money, we want to spend it quickly. They want to see us reimbursing counties, so,
Okay.
yes,
Thank
thanks.
When is the last day to register to vote?
The 13th, Tuesday, so we're about 5 days away.
Okay.
I'm glad you asked that. The 13th. And that's also to change registration, to update, if you want to change parties, if you got married and changed your name, any of that sort of thing, it's a good chance. Here's govotewb.com. That's the place, the source of information. The best source of information for elections is your county clerk, okay? Go to the county clerk. They know if they're going to have to close a precinct due to poll workers or somebody not showing an electrical outage, that sort of thing. I brought this with me to show you that every clerk in West Virginia, we have the best trained clerks in all the United States right here because we got started early on it. We developed this continuity of operations plan. Every precinct will have this. It has everything from electrical outages, natural disasters, bomb threats, pandemics, cyber attacks, you name it. It's right here. All they have to do is open up to the page, and it will tell you who to call, the point of contact, how to resolve the situation that's at hand. Again, West Virginia leading the nation with this, and folks are all well-trained for that. So I keep going back to the best source of information is your county clerk if you have an elections-related question. The second trusted source, folks, check this out, okay? My trusted source box, okay, elections related, all right? It's a trusted source 2020. Your trusted source are your county clerk and your secretary of state. Not Facebook, not Twitter, not anything else, okay? It's your county clerk and us, because things will happen. We actually had a bomb threat in one of our counties. This tells you what to do, but if they have to close a precinct due to a bomb threat or an active shooter or a chemical spill or a gas leak or whatever, the county clerk will know and be able to direct people where they need to go to vote. So I can't emphasize that enough. The county clerk is the best source. Hey, County clerks run these elections. I advise, I'm the chief elections officer, but I can't tell a county clerk how to run their offices or how to run an election. So if something's gonna change, the county clerk's the chief elections officer for the county.
Mike, I think, had a question back here.
Yes, please.
Thanks for being here, Jack. I want to just say thank you for there was a lot of controversy and just a cloud, I think, over the absentee ballot system a month ago or 6 weeks ago. And I just want to say thank you for the nonpartisan way you've approached that. You've reassured everybody, regardless of their party affiliation, that it's safe, it's going to work, it is working, it has worked. So thank you for
I
that.
appreciate that, and I'll return the compliment back to the legislature. Our legislature has this right. I don't think we need to change West Virginia state law. We are one of 16 states that require people to request an absentee ballot. Just don't send them out to everybody. It's not a no excuse state. We're not a vote by mail state where you just send it out. There are just too many opportunities for fraud, and not just fraud, but human error to occur. When the county clerk receives an application, they know that there's a live person on the other end of that and a current address for them to send it to. And so don't think we need to really change our election law. The only thing would be is if we are going to see an increased use of this absentee ballots. Like I said, we went from 7,000 to 224,000. If we think we're going to continue to have this pandemic type of situation long-term, we may want to adjust the dates that we request these absentee ballots, the requests to be made and for when it to be sent. And I point to the card that pretty much every one of us got from the post office. It said, if you're going to do this, request your absentee ballot 15 days out. That's what the post office requested. Our state law has 6 days, okay? So we may want to adjust that if we're going to continue to rely on the mail for our voting. But I think that's a legislative decision that they need to make as to what fits our customs and culture here in West Virginia. Ours is different than Washington State, Oregon State, Colorado, and some of these places that do the vote by mail. They've adjusted over the long term. They've got the equipment in place. They've cleaned up the rotor list maintenance and done all that preliminary work so that they can handle the vote by mail. We have not done that. I don't think we need to do it. I think that our system is working just fine. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
I think you look nice in your green tie. Nice work.
I noticed that. I thought maybe it changes the further north you go.
I have one other question.
Yes.
I know it's been difficult for some of the counties to get poll workers, including Cabell County, and our licensing board for the realtors had something unique where they got their continuing education provided to them if they volunteered to work as a poll worker. Have any other professions or licensing boards come forward to do that as well?
What we did is, the United Way is working closely with us, and so they're reaching out to their umbrella of people that are working with the United Way across the state. So they're stepping up just like the Board of Realtors did this last time. And kudos to the board for doing that. They hit a crucial moment. We did have a handful of counties that were having some trouble during the primary. And the importance of that, folks, is you need those poll workers to keep those precincts open and let people vote in person, which I was emphasizing earlier. You have to have poll workers there to have those precincts open so people can go and vote in their local localities. So I encourage people, if someone wants to be a poll worker, the best place to do is come to that govotewb.com. We have a tab that says be a volunteer for poll workers. Although we say volunteers, but they are paid positions. You get paid for the training. You also get paid if you get called. We then convey that information to the county clerks. They have a list of auxiliary poll workers. We're in pretty good shape. We've recruited over 3,500 auxiliary workers in addition to the 9,000 that already it takes to run the elections. No one is complaining right now that they don't have enough
Good.
workers. But we do know what happened here in Cabell County. Sometimes people call in last minute. They have those, if there were to be a spike in a certain area, you've got a university here, you've got students and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
If something
Yeah.
spikes, then poll workers call in and you call those up. So I appreciate you bringing that up. GoVoteWB.com and volunteer with poll workers.
Anything else? We appreciate you being here.
Sure,
Thank you so
for
much.
giving me this time to explain
Great
how we're running the
information.
elections. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on any item that's not on our agenda? Okay, this time we'll move on. We have a resolution for the employment of Angela Renee McCoy as a custodian and Joshua Shortridge in the maintenance department.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is a letter, Cabell County Commission in support of Advantage Valley's emerging markets.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. In the matter of appointing an audit committee to procure audit services for Cabell County. Beth, did you have anything you wanted to say about that?
We do this every year, we're going to send out, bid our audit out, and it's Phyllis, county clerk, myself, April Saunders, Charlie Atkins, Sherry Hagley out of the county clerk's office that make up the committee.
So
Okay.
moved.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is a resolution in the matter of the pledging of temporary letters of credit by J.P. Morgan Chase Bank.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
I'm getting Paul Rennick on the phone for this one. He's the accountant.
Can we generally do West Banco at the same time we do,
As a rule, but if you
They've
don't.
not been
see-
sending anything,
what's that?
they haven't been sending anything to put on there, so.
I'm sure Marcus is.
This item is the approval of our financial statement.
Hey, this is Paul.
Hi, Paul, this is Beth Thompson, and we have the commission meeting in progress, and we were gonna let you explain, the financial statement for fiscal year 19-20.
Sure. How is everybody?
Fine.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Can everybody hear okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Good. This financial report, which is required by law to be published in the newspaper, is pretty extensive. It's very lengthy. What I had sent Beth, and just will discuss briefly, is kind of I did a summary comparison of 20 and 2019 just to kind of get a sense for what kind of changes there were and if anything looked way out of sorts. And the one thing I noted, just as a kind of a high level, is that, you know, the total expenditures were about $60,500,000 roughly both years. Not that the expenditures were all for the same things, but at least it wasn't way out of kilter from that side. A couple things we looked at, you know, when I don't know, I didn't know if you'd given this summary to them, Beth, or?
Just right before the meeting started, yes, I don't.
Okay, good. Well, the other report, if you're looking at it, is kind of overwhelming. It's just like there's a bunch of vendors and there's a bunch of categories. You know, there's like 31 pages worth of information. And what I did is I kind of went through in the summary and kind of highlighted some of the key things: salaries and wages of employees. Well, when you have increases in number of employees, obviously, and possibly some compensation increases, you're going to have a bump up there. The FICA tax, I didn't box it, but it would go up commensurate with that. One thing important to note, you see the group insurance expense, that's the health. You know, when you guys made the changes a year and a half ago or so, those are being reflected because the previous year didn't have a full year of the lower rates, you know what I mean, lower pay for health care. So, you know, you went from, dropped about $1.2 million in group insurance. Retirement did go up and that would be commensurate with any increases in compensation. So, there wasn't anything there that looked way out of line from a initial analysis perspective. Then we went down and looked at some of the other items. A lot of them are pretty comparable. Down looking at maintenance and repair equipment and maintenance and repair auto trucks. And again, those are always going to be fluctuating due to the age of equipment, vehicles, and usage. And as you'll note a little bit later, you made some pretty substantial investments in like EMS vehicles and other vehicles, which is just a requirement. They're not going to last forever, and but as equipment ages, you're going to have more maintenance and repair on those. So these, but in this case, there has been more money invested the last couple of years in those. So some of those costs may drop a little bit, and then in a couple more years they'll bump up as the vehicles age out. Let's see, postage went up. I wasn't sure on that, but one of the things I wondered is, it was money for the reserve account. You guys put, and with some of the things going on, starting with COVID in March, a lot of things probably ended up getting mailed out as opposed to, since a lot of meetings were curtailed, what you're communicating with people either online or sending postage out. So they, probably anticipating those kinds of things.
Paul, if I could
Yeah.
interrupt you just a minute. I know you weren't listening in on the rest of the meeting, but we've had our Secretary of State here, Matt Warner, this morning, and he was just talking about the election process and the mail-in ballot process. And so that was a lot of the reason for the uptick in the postage this year, was the election process right now with the mail-in ballot. So, and as he pointed out, I talked to him about it, in the primary, there was federal monies in the HAVA CARES Act, and the county submitted for reimbursement of that postage. So we got that back, and we'll be doing the same thing in the general as well, too. So.
Gotcha. And I kind of assumed that with COVID there was expenses. I hadn't even given second thought on the election, but that's, people weren't going to be, most people weren't voting in person, and we're doing, mail-in, so that makes a lot more sense, the money going in the reserve to cover that. Training and education down, and again, there wouldn't have been that much going on in the last quarter of the year because most of that was not allowed to be done. Then as I moved on to, say, the second page there and looked at things like professional services, a couple things there. BI Incorporated was up about $36,000. Election systems and software would have been up. I think you had some improvements, and that's why that would, those costs, because it wasn't nearly that. It probably was about $8,000 or somewhere in that range, and I think it's like $37,000 this year. So that had gone up some with some of those professional services, audit costs. I'm almost positive that that's 2 years were paid in the same year because the one audit, when the audits weren't completed until later, you had some of those just carried over into the next year. So it's not like you had all additional audit costs. It was just the timing of when the payments were made.
Right.
Contracted services, again, the same thing. You do pay us for some assistance in financial statement preparation and accounting. One thing I'm going to just say there, just so that everybody is understanding, some of the big counties, and I mean really big counties, can afford to hire a CPA and spend $70,000, $80,000 a year for a CPA to do their financial statements. And a lot of the medium-sized counties, or even some of the larger ones, say we want to use our resources a little better and not have to spend that much money when we can contract with a firm to hopefully provide assistance but not have to spend as much. So, yeah, it did go up, which hadn't been done in some of the prior years, but, and then frontier costs were up about $110,000. So, quite honestly, I'm not positive on that, but I know with improvements to phone systems and, computer systems and all of those kind of things. And with a lot of work being done more remotely for those, couple months, my guess is that could have been some of the reason for that increase on that one. Then as you go down through there's not too many others, and you get down, medical supplies was up a little bit. That's basically going to fluctuate with needs by EMS on a regular basis. That's a hard one to know for sure because you just never know what's going to happen and how many things you're going to need. But again, with COVID and some of the things involved with testing and those kind of things, my guess is that's part of that. Then if you look at auto supplies, that went down some. And again, that's going to fluctuate with maintenance and age of vehicles and condition. But with the county investing in additional vehicles over the last couple of years, some of those costs probably were driven down a little bit. And again, they'll go up just like auto parts and supplies will go up in the future. But I hope that makes sense. Most of the others are pretty consistent with prior years. And if you go to the last page, you look at capital outlay, equipment. The big chunk there, most of that was the EMS vehicles and then other vehicles for the county. There was other equipment purchased, but vehicle purchases were by far what drove up that for the most part. Then if you look at contributions to other funds, not having to pay as much over to the healthcare fund due to the revised health plan resulted in some of those reductions. So, you did have some increases. You're going to have the personnel and some of the other things we talked about, capital outlay, but then you had decreases in healthcare and some of the other areas which offset that. So, on an aggregate basis, the county still is, I think, in a very positive position from that side. One thing I'll just throw out, when the audit's going to be ready to be completed, we'll come back and kind of walk through the 50 or 70 page financial statements that are given to auditors from that side, which is pretty voluminous. But we'll just do an executive summary from that side. But I kind of just, from that side, that's where things are. There wasn't anything from our side that jumped out that looked really, say, way out of sorts or out of whack from that side. I think the county's making good progress here. I don't know, any questions? I'd be glad to try to answer them. I'll do my best.
Anybody have any questions? If not, thank you very much, Paul. We do appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome, and I hope you all have a great day and great week ahead. At least it's beautiful weather right now.
That's for sure.
Not that we're out enjoying it, but it's beautiful out there.
Thank you.
It's nice to look at.
Yes. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, we need to vote then on the approval of the financial statement.
I guess we're voting to approve it, not subject to audit this time, since it isn't the audit.
Right.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is a letter from the sheriff on interest earned on the DMV fund.
Sheriff, you want to explain out a little bit what we're doing here?
Is that those bag checks?
Yeah,
Yeah, people had bought tags over the years and wrote bad checks. These were all old, the ones that happened during my term, we had to take the plates off the cars until the days. So we had to write them off the books, basically. We're not selling tags right now either, so that's helping.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is a letter from the sheriff for the donation of a vehicle to the Cabell County Board of Education Law Enforcement Training. It's a Ford Crown Vic 210 model.
It's end of life, over 100,000. they have that police academy training out there at Votech that tries to get kids that are interested in law enforcement, dispatching, EMS. They needed a vehicle to kind of practice doing stuff, and it suited their purpose very well, and we probably wasn't going to get much of nothing out of it, so we just took it there and just going to give it to them for use for the kids for their training.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next, we have a letter from the prosecuting attorney for the employment of Jonathan Burton as a full-time assistant prosecutor.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next is a resolution for the employment of Crystal Danielle Allman as a full-time paramedic, Ryan Douglas Berger, full-time paramedic, Mark Cole Cooper, full-time EMT, Paul Allen Lude as a full-time EMT, and reclassification of Sam Lowe per diem paramedic.
Move.
Second.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carries. Next, we have the reappointment of Robert Michael Kirtner to the Culloden Public Service District.
So moved.
Is that his reappointment?
I beg your pardon?
It's a reappointment, okay.
Yeah, it's a reappointment
So
too.
moved.
He's been on that board for a number of years. And that should be the board, the district board.
I moved.
Okay, motion's been made.
Second.
It's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next, we have a letter from Irv Johnson, our assessor, concerning the dog fund, and he's coming up in this world, folks. $229. I mean, it's usually 50 cents or $2.30.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next is a letter from Irv Johnson concerning the sheep and goat tax. They're not doing so well, $3.40.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next, we have the special fund budget revision, number 2, CCEMS, concerning the Civil Defense Fund.
Basically, what it involves is we had a close encounter the third time. Got
Ooh.
wrecked. And it's just moving the money so we can pay for the vehicle that got damaged.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next, we have a proclamation from the American Association of Nurse Practitioners 2020 National Week Proclamation. And I think we have the lady who's president of that group with us today. Is there anything you'd like to say?
No, so I'm Jody Biller. I'm the West Virginia State Representative for AANP, and, you know, we're really honored for you to acknowledge nurse practitioners in Cabell County. We have 305 nurse practitioners in Cabell County, so thank you.
Thank you so very much.
You want to read it or no?
I hadn't planned to. I
What
can.
we did before.
Kelly's
Want us to
asking
read
me.
it? Okay. All right. So moved.
Second.
The motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion concerning the resolution proclaiming National Nurse Practitioner Week? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you so much for calling this to our attention and for being here today. We appreciate it. Next item we have is notice of award of bid and agreement for paving of parking lots at the Cabell County Courthouse to Acres Paving. There's Chad.
Yeah, I'm working over here. It is, they were the low bid, they are certainly qualified. We did allow them to amend their initial bid because we had asked, Mr. Akers was kind enough to provide the specifications for the size and thickness and all that. So when we wrote the specifications, put the advertising
way low, yeah.
So hopefully he'll get on that here in the next few weeks.
Okay, thanks for all your work on that.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next resolution concerning the county budget revision number 2, Beth.
This is the assessor's office moving money out of capital outlay into longevity and contracted services.
So move.
I'll
Motion-
second.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. We have the executive session as item number 290. Could we go ahead and take up 291 and get that out of the way and then come into executive session? Item number 291 is a resolution for a grant application in the matter of a resolution authorizing the commission to submit a grant application to the West Virginia Courthouse Facilities Improvement Authority Funding Assistance Program for funds in the amount of $94,000 for repair and painting of the fire escape.
Again, the demolition of the jail makes that a very focal point if you come down Seventh Street. And we basically noticed, I'm sure, the paint's peeling off of it. And we've uncovered a couple of areas where it needs to be shored up through just metal fabrication. We thought that would be a good candidate for this particular grant.
Sure. Good.
But they will be vapor blasting, because sandblasting, it's too big a mess. And then putting a coating on it which will adhere to galvanized, which evidently was not done to begin with.
That's right.
In the years past.
Mhm.
So hopefully
That's-
we'll have that looking better here soon, or it'll be probably next year, so, early next year.
Are we proceeding anyhow?
We're gonna proceed with the, anything safety point. And we'll do that firsthand, but the paint is not really a safety issue, it's just more cosmetic issue.
So move.
I'll
Motion's
second.
been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. The next item is to go into executive session to discuss the opioid litigation. At this time, we are back in regular session with no action having been taken in the executive session. And we would like to place on record additional documents to be recorded. Monthly statement of the assessor, Cabell County, West Virginia, for the month of September 2020.
So move.
And I'll second that motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. I assume we have no commissioners' representation reports. Do we have anything for the good and welfare of Cabell County? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. I think we've pretty much signed everything except the official documents. And so we will adjourn this meeting and move right on into the Board of Equalization.